All right, one last thing to do here in 2019.
Final thoughts.
I guess two last things to do. We will do, you're right, we will get to America's second favorite segment.
Most favorites.
But before we get to America's second favorite segment, we have to do America's favorite segment.
We don't have to.
It's time for a bowl edition of Free Money!
Notice we didn't take a break, so I couldn't leave before we did this.
Free money!
Yeah, I know.
Our college football picks against the spread. I will unlock those chains when this is over, okay? You're tied to that desk until Free Money's over.
That's what those are for. I wondered.
He was trying to escape. It's time for Free Money. It's Ish's favorite segment. It's Ashley's favorite segment.
No,
it's
it's
America's
not.
favorite segment.
It's really not.
Free Money. College football picks against the spread. There are 4 bowl games to get to. We will start, I guess, on Saturday. While we are all watching, I guess, 2:30. So we're getting ready for the Duncanville North Shore game. There will be another game going on. What is that, Ashley?
That game will be SMU, or it's the Boca Raton Bowl, so SMU versus FAU. 2:30 p.m. on that Saturday. SMU favored by 3 on what you could probably say as a road game.
Oh, no, it's a road game.
It's an absolute road game.
Yeah. No, I mean, FAU's
They're
playing in their home stadium.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, there's no way to say it other than it's a road game. Look, FAU is a squad that the defense is pretty darn good. This is going to be, I think, an interesting challenge for the SMU offense. A quick positioning statement. I think the bowl games are not necessarily indicative of who the best team is, but necessarily
Last year's Sugar Bowl.
Who is coming in?
Hey, now.
Who is coming in maybe with the most the most on their roster as far as who are guys that are going pro, but also who's coming in maybe most motivated, right? And so when you take a look at this game, you can go over the numbers and things, but the bigger thing for me is going to be who is more motivated, who has more kind of steady. I think this has SMU written all over it.
Oh, it's easily.
I think, first of all, FAU doesn't have a coach.
Right.
They do not.
Well, they do, but
Well,
he's
they
not going
do,
to
but he's not going to coach.
sideline.
Willie Taggart is
Yeah.
their coach. They just
Right.
hired him, but they're changing coaches.
Right.
They will. We will. So I think that when you take a look at that alone, we can talk about the matchups. I think that actually SMU is going to be able to score on FAU, and I think their defense will be able to turn them over. This is a team that, for all the things that they do pretty well, I think that overall, as long as Shane Buechele takes care of the ball, this is a team that picks off a lot of passes. In fact, they are number 1 in interception rate. But as long as they take care of the football, I think SMU beats them. I think SMU rolls. If you talk about a team like this, strikes me as SMU a couple years ago when they had Sonny Dykes coach in the bowl game, right? Team without a coach. I thought they were the better team, and they got steamrolled in that Frisco Bowl.
Yeah.
I think SMU wins this game. I'm going to take SMU -3.
Same. No, I have no reason to.
FAU's crowd doesn't show up.
Lane Kiffin is like, as a play caller, we can joke about him. He's a funny guy and all that stuff, and how he got fired at USC, tarmac jokes and all that. He's a great coach. He's a great play caller.
Yes.
He's a great schemer. Without having that on your sideline, it's tough. And
I totally agree.
I'm not saying FAU is going to lie down necessarily, but again, they're not going to have one of the best play callers in college football calling the plays.
That's exactly right. I think that you could make an argument that he's the most important piece of that team, and
Sure.
he's not going to be there.
I mean, look at FAU outside of when Lane Kiffin took
Yeah.
over, right? They had one bowl, I think, under Howard Schnellenberger, and that's kind of it.
Yeah,
Like,
I think you're totally right. What's next, Ashley?
Up next, heading back to the state of Texas, we've got the Texas Bowl. Oklahoma State, ranked number 25, takes on A&M December 27th. A&M favored by 7, where our good friend Marvin Mims will
Yes,
be
he will
recognized.
be. Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year will be honored at the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl here on December 27th in Houston. I think a lot of this comes down to, do you know what the status of Spencer Sanders is?
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not playing.
He's not playing.
I don't think
right.
so.
I don't think he's playing. So they're going to be on a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Which I think obviously advantage A&M, especially considering I think that on the other side of it, I think A&M's going to be able to move the ball. The Oklahoma State defense is not super great, and they are especially not super great against the pass. This is a game that I think Kellen Mond's got to have a big game. Furthermore, this is a team that doesn't necessarily get after the quarterback. And so when you talk about when Kellen Mond has had bad games, in a lot of ways, and this isn't to defend Kellen Mond, but in a lot of ways, I would say that they are directly tied to how much pressure he's under. Whenever he is under more pressure, he is worse. I know that seems like a real hot take here, but it's true. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be able to get back to it. The other question is, does Chuba Hubbard play?
Right.
If Chuba Hubbard plays, then then they're going to be able to run the ball, and they're a very good running team. Although A&M fair against the run, that would be the big question for me. I think I don't know. Houston is an A&M hotbed. I think they're going to bring a big crowd.
Sure.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that they're going to have, if there is a home field advantage in a bowl, I think that A&M will have it. I'm going to take A&M in the -7. I'm going to lay the points. I think A&M wins this game by about 10 or so. Just too many questions on the Oklahoma State side at this point.
Yeah, no Sanders, no Wallace, if I believe that's correctly too. Hubbard's status up in the air, but even then, you're turning them into a one-dimensional team. Kellen Mond, I don't think Oklahoma State's talented enough on defense to be able to disrupt him at all. You look at all of his bad games this year. They all come against good defense.
Now, I will say this.
Yeah.
A&M will be without Justin Matabuke. He is declared for the NFL draft.
That's fine.
He's probably their best defensive lineman.
That's fine.
So if Chuba Hubbard plays, then this thing maybe gets dicey. But if he doesn't play, then I think A&M will take care of it.
That's fine. They'll be fine. A&M wins this. Because, here's the other thing.
I like it. I like the confidence.
Here's the other thing is, A&M's lost every game we thought they were going to lose this year due to this tough schedule. This is their one chance to grab some momentum going into 2020, saying, okay, this is the year we're going to have, right? This is the year that we're going to actually turn things on, that we're not having this all-time tough schedule anymore. They can't lose to Oklahoma State and then still hold on to this and say, but we lost the games we were supposed to lose.
Right.
So,
I think you're right.
This is a game they're supposed to win. They should win this handily. Chuba Hubbard can't do it all by himself.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. They can set the narrative.
Right.
Because I know you are very high on A&M going into 2020.
I told you right now, they are a 9-10 win team going into Bama.
Yeah. I mean, they are, there's the schedule sets up very well for them. This is where they can set the narrative. It's going to be tougher to set the narrative if they're 7-6.
Right.
8-5, I know it seems crazy, but that is we talk about the national consciousness. People are going to look at the record. What's next, Ashley?
Up next, staying in the great state of Texas, we've got the Alamo Bowl, where number 11 Utah takes on the Texas Longhorns, 6:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Utah favored by 7.5.
So this game's already moved a point. This opened at Utah -6.5. It is now moved a 7.5. This is they've got the steam right now, so to speak. That's a gambling term. Utah is probably. Here's a question. Is Utah the best team not in the college football playoff? Maybe another team we're going to talk about in the next game, maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, they're up there.
It's close.
They're up there.
They're up there. Now, they pooed the bed against Oregon. They would have been in the college football playoff if they hadn't lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. This is still a supremely talented Utah team. This team's super good at kind of everything. Most notably, their defense is suffocating. It is really, really good. And they do everything well. And most importantly, man, they do not let you run the ball at all. And so this is a huge test for the Texas offensive line. They've got to find a way to keep Sam Ehlinger clean. They've got to find a way to run the ball. Now, there's a couple of things. Home field advantage.
Nope.
For Texas.
No.
Tom Herman as an underdog.
No.
He straight up came out and said that the 7-5 season was fine and that they're going to beat Utah and be ranked at the end of the year. So he's confident.
I don't know what's the more egregious statement, that he's going to say that they're going to beat Utah, or that he says they're going to be ranked after Utah.
I'm taking Utah. I'm going to take Utah -7.5. I think that. A lot of this comes down. The thing is, I don't think Utah has a ton of guys going pro, which is but again, it's one of those things kind of similar to what Texas ran up against last year, which is it's a motivation question.
Sure.
Georgia pretty clearly wasn't interested in that game last year. Not taking anything away from Texas, they pretty clearly weren't interested in that game. Utah, are they interested in this game? I still think Utah's not a big enough program to sleepwalk through.
I was going to say
a bowl that's near New Year's Day.
You know the last time Utah won 12 games?
No.
Urban Meyer 2004, Alex Smith.
Yeah. Okay.
This is their chance to win 12 games again.
Yeah.
They have not made the playoff before, so they don't have that expectation. They made I think 2 BCS title games total in their career, in their history. I believe this is their most, let me see. I'm trying to think since 2010, since Urban Meyer left. Or no, sorry. 2010 was the last time Sorry, 2015 is the last time they won 10 games.
Yes.
Before that, it was 2010.
Yeah.
And so they're in 11 wins right now. This is their best season in a long time. They can't take this for granted. This is arguably one of their best seasons of all time. I just don't see anybody on Texas's defense stopping Zach Moss.
Yeah.
Tyler Huntley is an incredibly efficient quarterback. He's not going to light up the scoreboard, but I think he's going to be hard to get off the field. I think this whole Utes offense is going to be hard to get off the field. And, I think Texas just wants this year to be over. And you're also looking at you want to look at coaching staff switches.
Yeah.
Texas is going to be without their defensive coordinator. They're going to be,
Yeah.
Tim Beck's still on staff, but like they're going through some changes of their own. It's just, I think Texas just wants this year to be over with.
What's the final game of the 2019 college football season? It's actually in 2020. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's in 2020. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it'll be one of the first games of the new decade.
Mhm.
It'll be the Sugar Bowl, where number 5 Georgia takes on the number 7 Baylor Bears. 7:45 p.m. January 1st. Georgia favored by 7.5 in a great city.
Okay.
Stadium.
Okay. I've said this before about Georgia. Georgia has an awesome, awesome defense.
Mhm.
Their defense is really good. Like, super good. It's going to be the best defense that Baylor's seen all year, pretty clearly.
Yep.
Like, this defense is really good. And with the Baylor offense, we don't know what the status of Charlie Brewer is.
Mhm.
We don't really know. They may throw Jacob Zeno out there. They may throw Gary Bohannon out there. Why did I say Buchanan? I've got Tim Buchanan on there. They don't know. Like, we don't know what they're going to look like. And beyond that, their offense has been pretty inconsistent all year long, right? Let's go to the other side, where it's kind of the same thing, except I would classify Georgia's offense as butt, and Baylor's defense is super good. I think this has a chance to be really low scoring.
Yeah.
I think Baylor keeps it close. I think that, like, 7.5 is just, like, I can justify taking Baylor plus 7.5 because I think they might, like, I think Georgia might win the game, but I do think that Baylor is going to stay within a touchdown. And I think that, like, I just don't know if Georgia's going to be able to score enough. Like, unless they get beat in special teams. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Get beat in special teams or they turn the ball over like 6 times. I like Baylor plus 7.5. I'm going to take the Bears.
I like Baylor outright.
Ooh!
I like Baylor outright because here's
Hot
the,
take.
Money line-ish!
because here's the thing. Here's where we talked about motivation last year with Georgia, right?
Mhm.
They've come out flat for these games when they haven't made the playoffs, when they've gone under their expectations. Baylor's playing for something that you could say, oh, they're disappointed not make the playoffs. Sure, I bet they are, but they're Baylor. Their history, this win, automatically up there with the best of all time.
Absolutely.
Right? In
Yeah,
program
they're playing
history.
in 2020. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Right. And so, like, also when you look at Georgia's offense, and yes, we can talk about how butt the offense is, I want to bring up some numbers that show how bad this offense is.
Thank you.
So running the ball, sure. DeAndre Swift is amazing.
He's really good.
Right? He's an incredible running back. They want to run the ball. Sam Pittman, gone, offensive line coach, right? He's now the head coach at Arkansas. That is a huge reason. Is this offensive line is incredible. I'm curious who's going pro from that offensive line if they decide to skip out. If Swift himself decides to skip out. If Jake Fromm decides to skip out. But even if Jake Fromm doesn't decide to skip out, do you know what Georgia ranks in yards per pass attempt?
Oh, God. I'm going to say 78th.
Ooh, 75th.
Whoa, that was pretty
70.
close.
I'm gonna list off some teams. I did this on Republic of Football as well. I'm gonna list off some teams that are around Georgia, and keep in mind Georgia, SEC power.
Number
They
5.
want to be playing for national titles.
No, division champion.
Division champion.
Yes.
They want to
Yeah.
be playing for national titles. Here are the teams that are around Georgia. 72nd, Fresno State. 73rd, Iowa. 74th, UCLA. Now let me go below that.
Ooh, Iowa.
76th, Western Kentucky. 77th, Purdue. 78th, Stanford.
Oh.
Don't?
That's what Georgia's passing offense resembles right now, is those teams.
Yeah.
When they're not running the ball, and by the way, Baylor's defense,
Very good against the
Front
run.
7, very good. If they can't throw the ball, and it's not because they can't, they don't want to. This is what Kirby Smart wants to do. Give me Baylor outright. I think they're playing for something more. I think they know they're playing for something more, and I'm curious to see which players from Georgia decide to.
Did you
get out of
mention
town,
that they're
really.
without their offensive line coach?
Yeah, they're without their
Yeah.
offensive line coach. Sam Pittman's in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Okay, so those are my free money picks. I am taking SMU -3 against Florida Atlantic. I like Texas A&M -7 against Oklahoma State. I like Utah -7.5 against Texas, and I like Baylor +7.5. I don't know if I'm going out. I don't know if I'm outright-ish.
I'm going outright.
But I
own it. There you go.
And there it is, the season finale of Free Money. Ashley, you don't have to do this again until August, probably August.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
My heart.